Everyone. For today's presentation, I have a verse from the 6th chapter. The 6th chapter in the Gita is called Dhyana Yoga. It's also called Atma Samyama Yoga. This is the chapter which teaches us how to deal with our mind, how to tame our mind. Hence, Krishna talks about meditation, a method by which we can do it. What he's essentially saying is that yoga is an internal being. It's not just an external doing, but transforming the inside. That is a state of mind issue. When Krishna says we need to participate in the world and we need to continue to do our work, we need to carry on our duty, he says along, parallelly, we are also supposed to have some reflection, some introspection. And this, he says, can happen through meditation. Meditation is like a gateway to discovering ourselves, the peace, the joy, the bliss that we have within us, to discover that. And in this chapter, Krishna gives extensive instructions, extensive directions, and guides us as to how we could accomplish this, practice it with practice. How to develop a mental eye to witness, to experience this divinity within us, so that we can first experience it within us and then in others, and then eventually everywhere, to be able to witness the presence of divinity everywhere. When we talk about meditation, there is a little bit of difference between prayer and meditation. Prayer is talking to the divine, okay? And it can be in many forms. It can be asking for help to get out of trouble, or to ask for things, wishes, please fulfill my wish. To please give me knowledge, let me know who you are, to just let me be with you. So prayer really depends on the stage of life we are at. Depending on that, we may be talking to God in different ways, connecting with the divine in different ways. Prayer is also a good tool to express our gratitude for all the blessings we have been given. Not that the divine does not know what we have, but this attitude of gratitude and giving thanks for all the blessings keeps us in a state of gratitude, and the state of gratitude increases our state of well-being and happiness. On the other hand, meditation is like listening to God. Prayer is talking to God, so it's another way of communicating. Communication consists of talking and listening. So meditation is listening to the divine within us, and eventually connecting with that silence within us. And Krishna says, of all the secrets, I am the silence, in the 10th chapter. So listening to that silence is a very important part of any religion. Even in the Bible, it says, be still and know that I am God. So it helps us to let go of our concerns when we are able to connect to that silence. So Krishna gives extensive instructions as to how to be able to connect with it. And he concludes his instructions in this verse that I picked, which is the 32nd verse in the 6th chapter called Dhyana Yoga, where Krishna says, Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna sukham va yadiva dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. So what Krishna is saying is, Arjuna, he is the best yogi who identifies himself with others. He sees the same soul, the same Atman, the same spirit in everyone, and he feels others' pain, others' happiness, as if they were his own. That is the highest state of being, Krishna says. That's what a yogi, a wise person, is able to do, have this skill for compassion. And Krishna emphasizes that this is a skill that we need to develop. And this is the basis of the Vedanta Advaita. There is no duality. There is only one spirit, that oneness in everyone. The core is the same. The difference might be in color, size, gender, age, all those things, external appearances. But the core is the same. And the scriptures talk about, give so many examples. One of the examples is like jewelry, gold. For example, if you see a bangle, a bracelet, or see a necklace, what we see is a thing that we use for different purposes. If we take it to the jeweler, all he sees is gold. To him, it doesn't matter if it is a pair of earrings or a necklace or a chain or a whatever. And it can go from one form to the other. A chain can become a bangle can become earring. So it is the core is what is important. And that's what the scriptures talk about. They give other examples. For example, like when we look at the pottery is made out of clay. And they can be big pots, small pots, tall pots, short pots, flat pots. But it's just the clay. And if you take the clay away, there is no pot. Similarly, when we look at the ocean has so many waves. They look different. They have different sizes, different heights. But they have nothing but the water. The essence of the sea is in the waves, and the waves are in the sea. And when they come up, they look different from the ocean, but when they collapse, they go back into the ocean. So these are the examples that we find in the scriptures to demonstrate, to illustrate that the core is the same. And if we look at any matter, eventually what do we find? Every matter has nothing but atoms. Atoms which have subatomic particles, the electrons, the protons, the neutrons, and then now we have hadrons and quarks, and goes on and on, but there is never nothing, there is something. And those are the basic things that are present in all the matter. If we look at our body, it's made out of so many cells put together called body at this point. Similarly, scriptures say all of us constitute this universe. So we are all the same. We may look different, but we are the same. So the scriptures also talk about this as being two types of views. And I don't know if you have ever read Ashtavakra Gita. He describes this very nicely, where he says there are two drishti, views, external, internal. External karma drishti, where we are carried away by the external appearances, the manifested world. with the names and forms and colors and all that. But a yogi has Atmadrishti. He's able to see the inner core. He sees the essence, looking at the reality behind what appears outside. So he goes beyond the manifested world. That is how Atmadrishti is, which helps us to be able to see the core in all of us. And Krishna emphasizes this point throughout the Gita in many verses. One of them is in this 6th chapter also, 6:9. He says, Sukham mitra rudasena madhyastha dveshya bandhushu sadhushvapicha papeshu sama buddhir vishishyate. Means, he says, one who has the same mind towards anybody, he gives just various examples like a friend, a benefactor, an acquaintance, an enemy, an arbitrator, a good person, a bad person, a sinner, he goes on and on. No matter whom we are dealing with, the inner core is the same. And he also says, not only people, in the 5th chapter, he says, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, Brahmane Gavihastini, Shunichaiva Shvapakecha, Panditaha Samadarshanaha. A jnani, a person who has wisdom, realizes whether we are dealing with the most educated person or the lowest cadre person or any animal for that matter. Some examples Krishna gives is a cow, a dog, an elephant, doesn't matter. Everything has the same core essence within it and outside too. Hence Krishna says in the 6th chapter 30, Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sachayena pranashyati. He says, when one has this view that I am in everyone and everything is within me and able to keep that in mind, he never loses sight of me and I don't lose sight of him either. We are together, in other words, means that person is able to appreciate the divine presence everywhere, all the time. And then hence that person realizes there is no I, there is no you, there is no other, it's all the same. Only the space is separating us temporarily. And the same space is also surrounding us, just like the divine. Divine is within us and all around us. When we realize this principle, Krishna says, we realize that when I'm hurting you, I'm hurting myself, literally, figuratively, because there is no difference. We are all of the same spirit. Hence, the golden rule comes into play. Okay? The basic, the ethical principle comes into play. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Okay? This, Krishna says, forms the dharma, basis of compassion, basis of ahimsa, non-violence. We need to be compassionate. And a lady by name, Karen Armstrong, she was a nurse. She was a British, she is a nurse. She was a nun before. She came out of the nunnery and then has become a big author, British author. And she is big on compassion. And instead of saying be nice to everyone, she takes it even one step further and says, never treat others like you would not like to be treated. That is very important. We want to be treated in a particular way and we need to be cognizant. Others are also like that. We shouldn't be doing to them what we don't want things to be done, things that we don't want to be done to us. So she almost says kindness should be our religion. And if we follow this principle, the world would be a much better place. Because kindness is the language that the deaf can hear and the blind can see. It's universal. And Jesus also says that you love one another like I loved you. Krishna takes it even one step further, not only being compassionate, kind, he says, both in the 5th chapter and in the 12th chapter, Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha. A wise person not only is kind and compassionate, but also rejoices in the welfare of others. He's happy when others are happy. He is happy when they are doing well, when they are, accomplishing more. So he or she is happy for others. And that is the attitude through which we can put ourselves in others' shoe. So this is how a wise person would do. But what about us? We who are in a very rudimentary state of being, in the beginning states of our spirituality, how can we do this? A person by name Ashley Montagu, he was also a British person who was a great philosopher, worked at Harvard. He says, the key is to start acting as though we are the persons we want to be. It's a nice way of saying, fake it until you make it. Meaning, he believes we become what we practice. Means that we may not feel compassionate to begin with, but develop it as a skill, become cognizant and start practicing it little by little. Like Krishna always says, Shanai, Shanai. He says that it's very hard to change. Start changing slowly is what Krishna says. So we need to practice to develop this skill. How do we do that? How do we begin to practice? And again, all charity starts at home. The first one you need to start being kind to is to yourself, Krishna says. And he gives extensive instructions as to how to start this, how to start so that we are starting to be kind to our body, our word, our mind, in all sorts of actions. Because it's impossible for us to be nice to us if we are not nice to us, ourselves. If we are not healthy, it's hard to be, in a healthy relationship with others. So Krishna says, take care of yourself. Kayena, Vacha, Manasa, 3 ways. So how do we do that? First of all, talking about the body. Krishna says in the 5th chapter, Navadvare Pure Dehi. This body is like a 9-gated mansion. And it's housing the soul. It's like a temple. Take care of it. It's a very holy structure. Your body is a very holy structure. Take care of it to begin with. And he also says, don't torture it. In the name of yoga, in the name of tapa. In the 17th chapter, he says, Karshayantaha sharirastam bhutagrama machetasaha. So he says, no, take care of your body. Don't torture it. How do you do that? In the 6th chapter, he says, Yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnana bodhasya yogo bhavati dukkaha. He says, you want to do yoga. Why? You want to transform the inside. Why? Because you want to get rid of suffering and you want to enjoy your life. But in order to do that, you need to have a good body to begin with, where you are not doing things in moderation. You're not eating too much. You're not eating much. You're not starving. You're not sleeping too much. You're sleeping enough and not, less. You are active, but you're not a workaholic. You're taking recreation time. So he gives all these instructions as to how to not overdo things, underdo things, and be in moderation. Then he talks about mind. How are you going to be kind to yourself? By changing the way you use your mind. In the 6th chapter, he says, Uddharedatman atmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu atmaiva ripuratmanah. Use your mind to pull yourself. Most of the time we are abusing our mind to pull ourselves down. Krishna says, no, pull yourself up. We need to train, because most of us do not know how to use our mind to our advantage. We never get training. We get training as to do how to do academically, didactically, get more marks, get more education, job, that, this and all that. But we don't really ever get trained about how we should think, how we should use our mind to our advantage. We're not really aware what our thinking is doing to us. So Krishna says, watch it. Don't make your mind your enemy. Make it your friend. Okay. Why? He says, Bandhuratmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jitaha anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. In the same chapter 6:6, he says, when we tame this mind, okay, our mind can become our friend, not our foe. Okay, Vashi, somebody who's able to tame and let the mind work for himself or herself. So how can we tame this mind? How can we get rid of the habits that we have? Because even the scriptures say, Manayeva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho. Your suffering is from your mind. Your happiness is from your mind. Mind is the reason we are in bondage or in liberation. A person by name Mark Twain said, I've suffered a lot in my life, and some of them have actually come true or happened. Meaning I suffered a lot for nothing because of the way my mind worked, thinking about things, thinking about the past, thinking about the future, worrying about things that I don't need to worry about. And also we react, the way we react to the world causes a lot of how we process what is coming into our mind from the world, how we process it causes a lot of suffering. And Krishna says nothing or nobody can disturb us if we don't let them. And we need to be cognizant of that. A person by name Jack Canfield, he was one of the co-authors of Chicken Soup for the Soul. There were a lot of books, very, very important, very instructive, wise books. And he was one of the authors of those books. And he gives a couple of instructions how he keeps his mind his friend and not foe. He says, first of all, be yourself. Talk lovingly to yourself. And before going to bed, visualize that tomorrow is going to be well, and eventually, future is going to be well. Meditate for answers. Take time for yourself. These are some of the methods by which he says he keeps his mind, on his side, not against him. So those are some of the instructions Krishna is also talking about. Take care of your body, take care of your mind and your word. What do I mean by that? In the 17th chapter, Krishna says, Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam priyahitam chayat. Learn to speak the truth all the time. However, be cognizant about how you're delivering the truth, and if that truth needs to be said at the time you're saying. Meaning, say it in a pleasant way, in a helpful way, and not in a way that is rude to them and upsetting to them. In order for us to do that, first of all, we need to learn how not to be upset, because when we are upset, it's impossible to be nice and gentle and pleasant with others. And this point is very important. There are many times we want to give feedback to others. Krishna says there's nothing wrong in giving and guiding, and especially when some people are asking for guidance from you. But see how you're feeling, first of all, inside. Are you, first of all, being calm and being kind to yourself, not reacting? That way you are doing yourself a favor, and then you can, help others also. So austerity of speech is very, very important. In order for us to not to cause harm while we are speaking, first of all, we should not be harming ourselves with that emotional state. Another thing is, like, if we could taste our words, would we be saying those words? And when we are perceiving rudeness from others, maybe we should see how we are delivering our speech to begin with. Because most of the time a kind word, a gentle smile, neutralizes a lot, helps a lot of the equation on either side. And if we still get rudeness, say we are doing all our part, and the other side is still rude, the way they are communicating with us, Krishna says, learn not to react, because it reveals who they are. And actually bless them, because they are giving you an opportunity to know what your state of mind is, whether you're able to stay above it and you're able to keep your cool in spite of how they are behaving. So instead of reacting, you're actually grateful that they are doing that, because that helps you to gauge what's going on within yourself. So also another thing is, when we are compassionate, no matter how they are behaving, it also helps us to think, well, are they going through some disturbance in their lives and behaving this way? Sometimes people may not be themselves and may act rude or indifferent because of what they are going through. And sometimes when we realize what they are going through, our experience, our perception changes differently. Say somebody has a life and death situation and they are, worried and not behaving properly, our perception changes. So never lose sight of your compassion is what Krishna talks about. And the Methodists have a good saying about this. They say, be compassionate in every chance you get. Do all the good you can for all the people you can, for as long as you can, whenever you can, wherever you can, whichever way you can. I think that's a nice way of summarizing it. And Martin Luther King goes one step further and says that treat people well even if they don't, because only light can drive away darkness. Darkness cannot drive away darkness. So rudeness cannot neutralize rudeness. Only compassion can neutralize rudeness. So that's why Krishna is talking so much about compassion. And another side of this would be practicing forgiveness. We need to forgive, first of all, ourselves in order for us to forgive others, to let go of all the hurt that there is and to become more and more compassionate. And we talked about forgiveness a lot before. And the other point about being compassionate and kind is, at times when we are interacting with people, we want to be right. And it's a human thing that we want to be right. And sometimes it's in order to be right, we may lose, more, and we may cause harm. So the saying is, be kind. If you have to choose between being kind and being right, choose to be kind and you'll always be right. You cannot lose by being kind. And how do we show this compassion and this love in our day-to-day life? Again, we can start, as we said, to ourselves, and then start with our family, and then extend to the society. Every chance we have, we can express our gratitude, our love, our appreciation to our family. And also small things in the society, giving our place in the line when we are in the grocery store, or letting others take the parking spot. Small, so many things, or listening to a friend patiently when he or she is in, distress. There is so much we can do to practice compassion all day long. And it doesn't have to be big things. Like Mother Teresa said, we cannot all do great things, but we can all do, even small things with great care, great love, great compassion. So that's an attitude of change in attitude, and developing a skill is what we're talking about. So that we can bring joy into others. Because when we give joy, first of all, we need to have joy. We cannot give what we don't have, like Wayne Dyer says. We need to have joy, and we can give joy by practicing these skills constantly. Being cognizant that we cannot always make everybody happy. Even God cannot make everybody happy. But we need to keep on trying. And it also means that we don't let others walk all over us. Even though I said that only compassion can, change rudeness. Rudeness cannot change rudeness. But we cannot let others be rude with us either, because Krishna says, first of all, you need to take care of yourself. You don't have to be subjecting yourself to that situation either. You need to get out of it if you need to. But don't do tit for tat. And continue to be compassionate. And Deepak Chopra has a few tips. He says, when we practice appreciation, attention, affection, acknowledgement, it helps us. It helps us to increase our compassion and the skill, and it also helps others to be happy, hopefully. So the point is that we need to learn to give whenever we can. We need to help to lighten others' loads. We don't need to make the situation worse. We don't need to be making things so that they are more miserable. Many are already, if you notice, are experts in making themselves miserable. If you notice, they have such a skill in generating man-made misery. And people are usually inventing new ways of making themselves miserable too, if you notice. So they don't need help. They don't need our help. Let them be doing what they're doing, but let us try to give as much joy as we can. And also that means we need to practice not being judgmental, because this is another weakness. Not only that I want to be right, I want to feel I'm superior, I'm better, I'm this special and all that. When we do that and when we are not humble, Dalai Lama says, ego imprisons us, whereas humility liberates us. Be gentle, be humble is what he talks about. That's part of being compassionate. I don't know if you have seen the Kid of the Year. Time magazine this year selected this young man. He's only 11 years old, and his name is Orion Jean, because he says, Angelina Jolie was interviewing him. He says, kindness is a choice, and while we cannot force others to be kind, we can be kind ourselves and hope to inspire other people. What a wise man. He's only 11 years old. So he already has the wisdom that, sages would have. So Krishna is emphasizing in many ways and in many forms to be compassionate all the time, as much as possible, because that is the way we can experience our divinity. In order to do that, first of all, he says, be kind to yourself, and then be kind to others. I would like to end it with a quotation which says, we are happier when we give people a bit of our heart rather than a piece of our mind. That's my presentation. Thank you.